Last week, we did a camera versus iPhone press photography session at home. This was teaching you how to take your own press photos. And I gotta say, the iPhone photos really didn't come out the way that I thought they would. Welcome back to the Self-Made Artist series. This is week number 5, and this week is going to be a continuation of last week, where we did press photos from our own home, one using professional camera and lighting, and the other one with just an iPhone and some DIY know-how to take a few press photos from home. Now, if you watched that video, and I'll link it right here, it didn't turn out the way that I thought it would. In fact, it was much harder, especially without proper mobile phone photography gear, like a tripod, for example, to take a proper press photo. But this week we're going through the editing process. So I'm gonna hopefully be able to take the photos that I've taken, A, show you how to edit them, and B, show you how to edit iPhone photography press shots in a creative way that's still gonna up the quality. So if the photos didn't turn out as good as if you took it with a real camera, and in my experience, they're really not going to, but I can show you some tools in Lightroom and Photoshop to get the best out of the images that you take, and show you a few unique ideas to use the press photos in real-world examples. So, without further ado, this one's going to be quite raw, this press photo series, and you're going to see my exact process of how I go and I take some of these photos, edit them, and finish off the edit into a professional press photograph. So, without further ado, we're going to first jump into Lightroom, do the initial edits, and then we'll pull some of them over to Photoshop and show you how we can turn it into a proper press photo. So here what I have is 2 photos taken with 2 different lenses, one with the 35 and one with the 85. And I'm going to show you how we're going to take a press photo out of each of them. Now, as I said in that video, in last week's artist series video, we take these in vertical. But because I was filming the video at the same time, I took it in horizontal. Now, something to understand is when you shoot with a professional camera, the megapixels are a lot higher. So the quality of my image is a lot higher when I crop in closer. So I'll be able to take these wide ones and crop them into vertical. But again, when you're going to go take those photos for yourself, do it in vertical. Anyway, let's start with the high quality ones first with the real camera. So here's the raw image that came into Lightroom. First thing that I'm going to do is make it vertical. Watch my headroom at the top. Remove that. And now we're basically just filling the frame with the subject. There'll be nothing on the sides, it'll just be that. Now I'm also going to look around the image to see if there's a better placement for me to bring it in tighter. And you can use Command Z and Command Shift Z to go in and out. We use this a lot in, I was going to say music production, but in all kinds of creative work. It's basically your guess and check, your A/B. Basically, once you've made a decision, I'm going to go back and go, okay, do I like what I've done? And the more you do this, the quicker you will get at it. So, I'm a little bit overexposed. You can hit the J key, and you'll be able to see whether or not things are overexposed or underexposed. Blue will be underexposed, red will be overexposed, and that's the J key. So let's just go back. I was just about perfect, but we can bring it down a little bit. Now I'm just going to auto white balance because I have a white shirt on. Perfect. Now, always when I'm editing a press photo, I'm watching my histogram up in the top right. You should really get into the habit of understanding what it means. Little contrast. Gonna hit J again just to make sure that I'm still in. Perfect. Let's add a little clarity, just a little bit. Now when I edit these, I am very, very light-handed with it. You'll never really see me push too far on a press photo. And a neat little tip too is if you're going to be doing press photos for older artists and they're concerned about looking old and they have their reservations about how they look on photos, if you bring your texture down a little bit, it actually decreases their age a little bit. So that's just a quick tip. I'm going to add a little vibrance. We don't want to go too far. What you have to understand about a press photo as an artist is that if it's going to be on different flyers and different editors are going to be working with it, you don't want to make it too creative. You want to make it basic, clean, so that they can rip it off the background and be able to put their own edits on top of it. So you don't want to go overboard with the different looks that you could potentially get from a creative artist press shot. No, it's just for you and you want to use that for your own promo. Sky's the limit once you've taken a proper photograph. But for the most part, you want to keep it pretty plain. That's something that you can do is if you want to go up and clean the face ever so slightly, you can use the Q key, and it's basically a healing tool that you can go in and just find a few little blemishes. I don't want to over push it. We don't want to make our subject look unnatural, but with enough experience, you'll find a few places where you'll go, okay, this needs just a little bit of cleaning up. So something like a little dot on the white hoodie that would just stick out. We're just going to scrub right through it, see if there's anything that we want to change. It was pretty much a clean hoodie, so we should be pretty good. Now we're a little underexposed there, not too worried about it, but we can get rid of it if we want. So once again, Command Z, Command Shift Z, guess and checks. Perfect. That looks pretty good. Add maybe a little saturation. Now all of these are closed. If you hit Command on a Mac, you'll open up all of them at once, or same thing, we'll close them all and you can open up them one by one, but I like having them all open at the same time. I'm going to put a little S-curve personally. It gives me a little bit more separation off that background. And one other thing I might do just to make my life a little bit easier when you go to rip this off the background is if you go background, it'll select all the background in Lightroom. Now if you're wearing black pants or something like that, it might be more difficult to grab. In this case, it did it pretty good, and I want to create some even more depth off that background. Now I know I'm underexposing that back a little bit, but again, the purpose of the press shot is to be able to rip it out of the background so it can be used for multiple different use cases. So then what happens is in either Lightroom or Photoshop, you can go and just select the subject by itself because it's already separated itself from its background. So you can go select subject and it's just going to get me now, which is great. But I don't need that right now, so we're going to take that off. Now, maybe a little sharpening. If you hold Option, you'll see what exactly is being sharpened in the image. If you hold Option for all of them, you'll see exactly what's being sharpened. And I shot it at 1600 ISO, so there will be a little bit of artificial noise, but not too much. Let's see what happens if you just touch it up just ever so slightly. Nice, not bad. Command Z, Command Shift Z. Yeah, that looks fine. Now I know that my camera has a little bit of a green tint, so I'm accustomed to just on a few shots, just up in the magenta, just offset it. Checking my skin tones, very, very important. And for the most part, there you go. There's a press photo. Now these were just roughed in. I was just sitting there taking my photos, so that would be totally appropriate. If you weren't shooting a video, you could take an hour, taking as many different shots as you want with different movements, different positions for yourself. But for the most part, that's executing a clean press shot for yourself. Now, something you could do is you could Command C in Lightroom and Command V, and you're basically just copying the look over. That's something to do if you want to quickly batch edit and look at what you're doing. So let's take that for example, and let's fine tune it from here. Now this was done with the 85mm lens, so it's going to have a little bit of a different look, but as I said in that video, it's my favorite and it's very clear to see why. I just think the look of the lens itself and the focal length is just better for a press photo than a 35. Once again, we can go clean up some of the, for me, it was just a little bit, I didn't shave that day. Move around this bin. And there we go. Not bad. Now, if you do shoot these in vertical, your resolution is going to be much higher on the image because you're using the entire camera sensor as opposed to cropping in after the fact. So, here's 2 quick press photos that now you can use for just about any purpose. Maybe we'll go back in, select subject. It's going to get me. I'm going to invert it. It's the same as just selecting the background. Maybe I'm going to pull the background down ever so slightly so I could get just a perfectly clean press photo that now can be used for any purpose that I might have. Great. Done. Now, this is with an iPhone. Now, I know I did this handheld. We had our fair share of hurdles when you're doing press photography at home, DIY, with your iPhone, and that kind of just goes to show you that this is probably what you're going to be able to expect from your own press photos. So, that being said, let's do the exact same process. I'm not going to copy and paste my look. I'm just going to do it this way. Now, we talked about headroom. I don't want to cut it off entirely because it makes the photo look a little bit cramped. But if we can just use this, that's not bad. This little line here is annoying me, so let's just give it just my whole arm. And here we go. An iPhone's naturally going to have automatic settings versus manual settings that I use on my camera, so it's going to mostly get the exposure right, but I'm still going to make it look better. Now, I like to play with just about every slider, just because. Let's give it a white balance. Let's try that again somewhere else. Cool, not bad. Let's give it a little contrast. A little clarity. Perfect. A little separation from the background, just a slight little S-curve. Doesn't really need to be more sharp, but we can. No profile correction. No vignette. No. Perfect. Okay, so there's the other one. Let's move on to one more. First, I'm going to fix by hitting the R key. I'm going to fix the crop on it. I'm going to do this waist up. That's something that I would definitely do on this image because I really don't like all that's happening. And these are just the quick fixes that you can make. Subject, reverse, just like this. Let's just bring it down ever so slightly just to get rid of the texture and the distraction a little bit. It's a bit too far, but that's okay. Because again, our purpose here is to take it off this background for the majority of a press shot, so we're going to make sure that we're setting up our image to do that exactly. Now, something up here, side of the head, this is why the backlight is so important, because I'm already getting a little bit lost, and when Photoshop or Lightroom tries to select this, it's going to have a problem. Your backlight is going to make sure that there's a glow right here, so you're going to be able to be pulled exactly off this background. Anyway, we'll continue with the rough in. definitely still a little bit too much light. We're going to hit J just to make sure that we're still in focus, or that's, we're going to hit J to make sure that everything is in focus. Let's give it a little curve. Check the luminance. But you can already see the difference in the iPhone, even in portrait mode versus a real camera. Like, the quality is just night and day better, but I understand that not everybody can afford a camera right away. It should be something that you should invest in as an artist that is looking to make their own art, take the matters into their own hands. You should be looking to invest in a camera as soon as you can. If that means work harder for yourself, get another job to pay for it, do that, because then you're going to learn some marketable skills after the fact. One sec. All right. So let's continue here. We've done 2 press shots, 2 with my camera, 2 with my iPhone. And again, we'll get to the Photoshop stuff afterwards, but for now, we're just going to do the initial clean here in the Lightroom and go from there. Now, these are the ones I took with natural light with my iPhone with absolutely no gear at all. And we're going to try to repeat the exact same process and again be able to use this to cut out and put it onto a different graphic later on. So first thing I'm doing is I'm just trying to clean the outsides as best as possible while not chopping off any fingers, giving myself enough headroom at the top. Not exactly too worried that there's enough space over here, but it's okay for now. We're just going to slightly clean up the image again, like this. I'm really just looking at myself here because the rest is going to be cut off the background regardless. There is nice separation because of the portrait mode in the iPhone, so that is a plus when you go to take this out and put it somewhere else. Now, with all automatic settings in the iPhone, it actually does a pretty good job. And when you look at these photos on an iPhone, much like everybody else, they're not really going to see too much the difference in quality. Now, I do think with a real camera it is quite obvious, but what I mean is with the iPhone, it's passable, at least for my taste. So here we go. Here's one. I know I'm not doing a lot to these images, and that's kind of the point, because once again, the effects and the creativity comes with being able to use that press photo in multiple different use cases. So that's what we're going to get at. So this was the flat light straight on. This is now the split light. As you can see, the split down my face with the shadow in the dark, or with the shadow in the light, I should say. So we're here just cleaning up this image, making sure there's not too much headroom. And here we go. Let's get into the actual edit itself. I'm going to pull down the shadows just to create more of that separation between light and dark. Let's hit J to see what's underexposed and what's overexposed. Make sure nothing's blown out in the windows. Maybe a little clarity. Dehaze. Don't push these too hard because you're going to add a lot of noise into the image. You can pull the highlights down even a little bit more. Here's some contrast. Okay, one last image. When I go to correct the form here, I look for vertical lines and horizontal lines that I can kind of match up here. Here's my Rembrandt. right here. Great. So now that you've done some slight little touch-ups to your images, your press photos that you take, let's see some practical use cases in Photoshop. So I'm going to take all of these, and I'm just going to edit them all in Photoshop, and we're gonna find some use cases for them. Now I'm sure you've seen flyers and album covers and releases from some of your favorite artists where they're using a photograph that's been taken of them for these graphics and these promotional things. So that's what we're gonna get at here. So this is gonna open all of them now. And I think I'm just gonna do one of the high quality one, and then I'll do one of the ones with my camera and one that day with my professional lighting and backdrops and stuff, probably these two. And then these will be the difficult ones because most of you are probably going to be doing this at home with your iPhone with no camera gear whatsoever. So I think these will be the important ones for you taking the press photos. But let's get to that afterwards. So let's start with this one. So I've already given myself a black background, but if you wanted to do that, and let's say you had some sort of flyer already going, let's just pretend now that you have a tour, okay, and you wanted to put your press photo on your tour flyer. Or far in the future, when you have an artist that you're working with and they want to take one of their press photos and put it on their tour flyer, you can. So I put this together super quickly. This is just some random photo off Unsplash that features the rave and dates and times of the next shows. Great. So now you can go into Photoshop like this, select your subject, and again, the entire point of taking this press photo is that you can easily rip it out of a background like this and put it anywhere you want. Or any blog can put it wherever they want. Or any record label can put it wherever they want. The idea here is make it just dumb simple and high quality for them to use. So if we do this, copy this layer. Now this project file is very small, but we can now put this like this, maybe actually like this, and like this. Maybe what you'd also want to do, add a mask, take out the bottom, other way you could do that is like this. Make it a nice clean line. And there you go. Now there's you on your tour flyer. Maybe you'd want to put your logo on there. Let's put a Wharfie logo on there somewhere. Now, this is a super rough-in way of doing it. Obviously, you would take a lot more time to make this graphic stand out and pop and make it look really good. But for the most part, this is why we're taking a high-quality press shot at home. This is why we're removing things from the background. This is why we're getting good light, getting an appropriate look on the actual subject or yourself so that you can make graphics like this in the future. You have a folder of material that you can use for your brand in the future so that you can constantly look good. Okay, so here's one variation. Now I'm going to take these off and I'm going to try this again with one of the ones we took at home, like this one, for example. Let's try this one. Let's actually try this one first. So we're going from high quality camera and equipment to iPhone with high quality lighting. So once again, let's unlock this. Let's select subject. It's got a pretty good grab of me. Copy, grab the layer, go to our project over here. Yes, it's going to be bigger. Bring it down like this. I'll probably want to put this. Let's remove our logo just so we can see. Something you kind of want to avoid though is the cuts, which is why you want the full body in it. So naturally we could use that technique that we did once again. I'm just going to follow my line here. Mask. Let's try that again. Let's mask first, then grab the selection that we want, then grab the brush. There we go. Maybe I'll probably want to move this particular image down a little bit. Pardon me. I want to move myself down maybe a little bit. Can do it again if we want. Done. Command D. So here we are. Now, every time you're going to make one of these, now we're in the graphic design world here, but anytime you're going to make a graphic project like this, or any editor, they're going to go and blend the colors so that it seamlessly works with each other. Obviously, it looks a little rough right now, but our purpose with this video is just to show you the press photo going into another image. So let's finish that as well. So now we're going to use one of these images, the ones that we take at home. When I said make sure you have a plain background, make sure the lighting's proper, all of these things, that's so that you can go in here to an image like this and select subject. So it did a pretty good job, and I'm going to say that probably has a lot to do with portrait mode in your iPhone because it gave enough separation off the background. If you were too close, if I was too close to the wall here, the sofa, or anything that's behind me, it wouldn't get that clean a cutout. So let's go copy this onto our piece of art. Bring it down. Once again, maybe we'll just add a mask from here and then brush out what we don't want, maybe. Let's go. We'll try to blend it a little bit. You can also go to layer style, auto blend, which has actually worked pretty well. Maybe it has to be. Maybe it needs to do this first. No. Maybe it needs to. No. Anyway, you get the idea. Why we're taking high quality press photos so that people can use them for a whole variety of different reasons. And your press photo is going to play a big role in doing this for you. So let's see. Let's make it darker. Now this was a flat light. The flat light on this particular background I actually wouldn't use, so let's actually try one of the other ones. Maybe this. Yeah, maybe this one. So let's see how that does. Now there's a lot of things behind my head. But you know what? These softwares are just so good these days. As you see right here, it did pick up a little bit. If that's the only spot and I missed a little bit here, like, for the most part, that's pretty crazy. Let's just remove this. I'm just refining my selection here. Just so that we get a relatively even look. You can refine it even later, but for the most part, this is pretty good. There, be a copy. Let's go back and grab it. Put it in. So let's try to just match. You're naturally going to be the predominant thing on here, so let's actually start with the brightness contrast just to blend it in a little bit better. And we're going to just, if you hold Option, you're just going to set this to that layer. Make it a little bit more contrasty to suit the rave vibe. Now it does have a bit of a fade on that background, so maybe we're going to want to do that as well. I'm going to also put the hue and saturation, see if I can blend the colors just a little bit better. Not like that though. Now, there's much better ways to do this, and we're not going to get into the crazy examples of this, but for the most part, this is just the basics of putting your press photo into your background. Find the levels. And great. I think I want to pull this up a bit. I am going to want to do that. Now, even still, it's not the best thing in the world. It's not the best thing that it could be. There's a million different things that you could do with graphic design to make it look cooler, to add neat little effects, but again, always make sure that it stays on brand with who you are and what your brand is telling you. But yeah, so this has just basically been working with press photos, how to take them at home by yourself, how to just get closer to a more professional image. That'll conclude it for this week's Self-Made Artist series. All of these skills take practice. I'm still practicing. I still find opportunities to make my own pieces of graphic art for my music brands. It takes practice, like anything else, like the music that you're making. It takes time to do well, and you're always going to be a student and you're always going to be learning. But it is a lot of fun if you understand the basics of taking these photos and you are a creative editor, then you can pretty much make any photo look pretty good, at least in my opinion. So this is what we were doing today, editing the photos from last week's artist series. If you learned something or you like this video, please leave a comment and like the video. And we'll see you next week for week 6 of the Self-Made Artist series. Once again, I'm Worf. This has been the Self-Made Artist series, and we'll see you next time.